close to my face. I'll see how this thing's going. Hello, Freda D. I think I got good close to my face. There we go. I think I got good sound. I'm just bumping everything now, and it just sounds terrible. But I don't want to get this thing to go. You see, it looks like a big, huge penis, so I don't want this thing too close to my face. So there we go. I think that's okay. Sounds good. Hello, Victor Frankenstein. Hello, Freda D of the Holy MGTOW. Hello. Yeah, by the way, go your own way, man. Go your own way. All your Simpsons from the past are forgiven. We don't care around here no more. Go your own way. Go your own way. I just figured I'd come on today and talk for a little while because, well, I'm being lazy lately. That's it. I'm being YouTube lazy. I haven't made a lot of videos, and I wasn't going to make a video today. I was working on this room here, and I was just laying around, and I was being fat and lazy, and I was sitting on the couch today. And yes, thank you. Thank you. Go your own way. You're absolved. So I figured I'd come around and say hello to everybody that come to the channel and everything, and we'll talk about a few things. News this week's been interesting. Anybody watched the news this week? I think we had two administration changes in Australia and in England. I don't know who the guy in England is. He's a new prime minister in England, and they removed two women. So I'm surprised it wasn't such a big deal. And in the MGTOW news, if two major countries of women got removed from being prime ministers, it's usually like, woo. It's like, but it wasn't that big this week. So that was a victory for MGTOW, and we'll have to accept our little victories. Now maybe in Australia and Britain, Britain really needs it because they got to get that Brexit thing before Frexit happens. And I'm sure that's coming. I was watching a movie that the prognostication was Brexit, and then the Brexit will happen, and then they'll get their thing settled, and then there'll be Frexit, which is France, and then Germany, and then all of a sudden it's going to be, it was a zombie movie at that. I can't remember which one it was. It was a horrible zombie movie on YouTube or something like that. So nobody really wanted to watch it. 2 stars or something. 2 stars. 2 stars are usually funny. And that's why I like Daisy Cousins got, yeah, Daisy Cousins. She's been some news this week. She's going to be the voice of MGTOW. She's going to be the voice of MGTOW. I listened to her once, and I left a comment for her. But let me get my lighting right. And we've had women over the years, Daisy Cousins. They're going to come in and like straighten us men out. We're going to just like and you'll see the slow flip and the slow flop over to other things. You'll see her start off strong and say everything the MGTOW men. Oh, she's getting a lot of hits now, and she'll get a lot of those hits and everything. Abortion was in the news this week, all week. That's the one that really bothered me, the abortion thing. I think I got my head just exploded because there's so many things to that abortion thing when you start unraveling it as a MGTOW. It starts to bother you, and it should bother you. And there's a whole bunch to it. Each side seems to be laying on hyperbolic statements. I can't see some reason over here today. I moved my desk around here, and now I can't see my board. It gets old when they start doing hyperbolic statements. And one of the things that they were talking about was, what about the rape? What like rape happens all the time. I gave you the statistics last week about rape, and yeah, last week I think it was 101 in 160,000. You probably won't know anybody in your community that actually got raped, and somebody got prosecuted. That's the only way we can tell which ones were real, which ones were on. It's who got prosecuted and who didn't. That's the American way. So, but the left was all up, and they were saying, and the right was making they're making them hyperbolic statements, hyperbole. They're using hyperbole, and both parties are using hyperbole in the rape thing. And one party is going to say, "Oh, they're just tearing babies from the women's," and like Dr. Kermit, who was that Kermit Gosnell, Dr. Kermit Gosnell that went to jail. They're just ripping babies from mothers' wombs and throwing them on a sidewalk like they used to do in the Old West. That's a hyperbolic statement and everything. And on the other side of the left, we got people that's, oh, well, you're going to force people to have babies. You're going to force little girls that were raped by their fathers. And then they use that I was, oh God, why? I mean, how hyperbolic can you say it? You're raped by your fathers and everything like that, just to shame men. And I thought, nobody else seen this, and they went over it. And I thought, we in America, in all 50 states, have what was called the Moses. It was called. Let me see. It was called the Moses laws, because Moses' mother, she was the Moses' mother, and I can't remember her name, Joshua or something like that. She took Moses down to the river, and she just basically, after she had him, she aborted him. She put them out in the river, and they're Moses laws. So they're called safe harbor laws. And but that's not neither here nor there. They got safe harbor laws, and we got one thing for this rape thing. That was one of the arguments I was having, and I just got them confused in my mind. One was safe harbor laws. They got safe harbor laws. If you have the baby, you can get rid of the baby. There's no you don't have to keep the baby. There's no law that says you have to keep the baby unless you're a man, and she decides, but she will take your agency, and the government will take your agency, and you will have to pay for that baby for the rest of your life. So she has choice, even though they're saying that she doesn't have choice. And there's safe harbor laws, and she can just drop the baby off and say, I cannot possibly take care of this baby. And that's probably a good thing. Some of them are crack whores, and some of them are, doing drugs and that stuff. But there's another thing, and it's if a woman gets raped in any city, in any state, in any hospital in America, one thing happens. They're giving the what most people would call the morning after pill. It's emergency contraception for rape victims. Every rape victim gets a morning after pill. Um, it's just one of the things they do. So you can't possibly say, if somebody actually gets raped, they go down to the police, they make a report, they go to the hospital, they get a morning after pill, nothing happens. Having babies of rapists just doesn't happen in any Western civilized society anymore. We had the hyperbole of infanticide after that, and infanticide was they're just ripping babies from the mother's womb like Dr. Kermit and throwing them out. Can you blame them for being scared? So I can see one side is really scared, and the other side is really scared that they're going to lose all their rights and everything. But in our laws, we have a lot of these things already pre-taken care of. It's redundant legal matters that we're talking about. Like I said, we have safe harbor laws. We have contraception, morning after pills, which takes care of all those situations. All we're arguing about is the time of gestation that the baby becomes a baby and becomes a human. And then up to 6 weeks, she has a choice. In that choice, the doctors can tell if the baby's going to be healthy or the baby's not. And you can't say there's such thing as unplanned pregnancy. We talked about this. Unplanned pregnancy for me is like saying, I don't know where babies come from. We're talking about maybe 12-year-old little girls and stuff like that. And they should be having babies anyways. If you don't know where babies come from and you're having sex, you need maybe a mental hospital, or you need maybe some sex education that you should have gotten in the 8th grade. You need something, and I'm not sure what it is, but you need something. And you can't say it was unplanned pregnancy when you took the agency and you said, I'm going to have sex and I'm going to do this and I'm going to open my legs, there's agency in that, and you wanted to practice your agency as maybe a teenager or a young adult or a full, well, since they never mature past 14, they're all young adults. But in that news, I thought, well, geez, there's so much hypocrisy on both ends of this thing, on the liberal end and then on the conservative end and the lefty end, or if we want to start using pejoratives for those things, we could just say conservatives and libbies, because it's just funny. I laugh when I hear them using the pejoratives on that, and I'm like, no, they're just Americans that have opinions, and everybody's got an opinion in America. We shouldn't use those pejoratives, but unplanned pregnancy really bothers. So my head got hurt this week bad with that. This what we're really talking about here, and this is the point I wanted to make with MGTOW. Voluntary parenthood is great. Women get a choice where they can be a voluntary mother, and it should be the same choice for fathers. People that lose their rights to be forced fathers. Forced fathers don't make good fathers. Forced mothers don't make good mothers. If you're forced to do something, when you say, no, I really don't want to do that, you're not going to make a voluntary parenthood should be the thing. And then we have these laws, emergency contraception, and we have all these, the Moses law that enables you to just drop the baby off and relieve yourself of that if you don't want to be. You're never forced to be a parent unless you're a father. Then you're forced to be a parent. Let me come back here and say hello to everybody. Hello, Feder, the universal MGTOW thread. Feder, this message is held for tits are stimulating. I'll approve that one, MGTOW thread. Hello, Victor Frankenstein. Hello, everybody that's come in or everything. So we had this horrendous news, and it just gave me I stopped. Which brings up another topic. I stopped. About yesterday or the day before. You ever get an overload? You're just overloaded by everything you see and everything you do. And I was feeling this whole weekend. I was feeling quite overwhelmed with. I was going to read, and I was like, everything I read is like, man, I read that before, and I read that before, and I read that before. I go on the TV and I know all the plots to all the movies before they happen. As soon as they give an indicator in the plot, at my age, I've seen thousands and thousands of movies. And every movie I put on, I was like, I know the plot. I know the plot. I know the plot. Girl gets stolen. Girl gets stolen. Girl gets raped. Girl gets this. Girl gets that. Girl becomes queen. Girl gets superhuman powers. Girl, and it's like on and on and on. So I sort through those strong girl videos that we all hate, and after we get through the strong video or the victim girl movies, then we got a choice of one movie did come out. It was John Wick, and I was disappointed with John Wick because it was just a big kill scene, like a video kill scene, and I was really looking forward to John Wick coming out, John Wick 3, and they let it go in because they're going to have a John Wick 4 now, and at the end he says, I can't remember. Lawrence Fishburne says to him, he says, "Are you mad?" And at the end, he looks up and he's half beat to death and he's laying on the ground and he goes, "Hell yeah, I'm mad." And it's like, no, okay, that leaves room for John Wick 4. The Lord cometh. Hello, Victor. Hey, that's pretty much how it happens. God said, I am coming, and boom, people are on earth. Yeah. The Christians around MGTOW have been bothering me. Have the Christians around MGTOW been bothering you guys lately? It's like this half Christian, half MGTOW hybrid Christianity and everything. It's not real Christianity because Christians are traditionalists, and traditionalists are traditional conservatives, which we don't appreciate here in MGTOW because they want to take you back to the 1950s. There was some magic moment that happened in 1950 where men were in charge and there was a patriarchy and everything was great. Really? Really? Come on. Were you there? I wasn't there either, but I read a lot about the 50s, and it wasn't a great place to live, nor was it a great time. But yeah, my idea of the traditional conservative, they want to go back to the 50s so we can redo all this shit again. We could come up and we can redo the hippie movement, we can redo the equal rights movement, we can redo the patriarchy movement or the matriarchy movement, we can redo feminism and go through this whole thing again. And I think a lot of the people would actually like to do that because then they would know the answers to everything. If you get to do the whole thing again for the next time, it's like watching a movie for the second time. I know what happens here. It's like, no, we don't want to go through that again. We want to solve these problems and these problems with the feminists, and the abortion thing really bothers me because there's so many more logical answers to the whole thing than you have to do some deconstruction on that stuff, and you have to tear it apart, and you got to look at it, and you got to do some thinking. You got to do some real thinking and ask you what's going on here, what's happening, what is, and I see that there's other ways around this, if there's other ways to do it, basically the biggest answer is if you don't spread those legs, ain't no chance of getting pregnant. I can swear to God, or it's not going to be some Jesus thing where some metaphysical being's going to come down and impregnate you. And there ain't no men out there that you can do the Jedi mind stare. And that's the thing I wanted to talk about. The Jedi, the women were. There's this thing that happens where they blame all men for pregnancy. Well, you got us pregnant. And that's relieving themselves of all responsibility and agency when they do that. They have no agency. Any woman that would say, "You got me pregnant," has no agency at all. She has no responsibility and no accountability. As soon as you hear that from her mouth, you know you're screwed. You know she's going to go sign up down at the Health and Human Service for you to be the baby daddy, for you to be the payor. You're going to become the payor, which I explained in videos back, which comes from fodder, which is the word father, which works out the payor, and that means today payer terminal. You're going to be the payer terminal, which is an ATM. That's why we say ATM, because it works out like that. If you never thought about the linguistics of how that worked out, how we came with back in the day when we started first saying that, hey, I don't want to be an ATM to this woman. It's payer terminal. It works out the same. It's the same word as father. But yeah, so they never going to grow up. She doesn't get agency and everything. And me and Phil, we were talking about, hello Phil, we were talking about how the baby boomers, the baby boomer hate this week, and I just seen Phil and he reminded me of that. We were talking about the baby boomer hate, and I got some of that the other day. Some of you guys seen it on there, and they're just, oh, I hate the baby. And I explained that, like, even just back far as Thoreau and in the woods, when he's walking out of the woods, he went and get some groceries or something that he needed. I can't remember. He was on the railroad tracks and he runs into a person that he knew, and they look down into the woods. They go down and they're looking for, it's spring, and they're blaming all this and he looks up at one point and he goes, every generation blames the generation before them for everything that happened, and that's just the truth of the matter. And it's been happening since way back. And I suppose we can look back in biblical writings and stuff like that, and David was blamed for his father, which was the wisest guy in the world, like, and his father, and David blamed that, and then the son of David blamed. So we can get a pretty good picture of how they were. But when you do that, you do the same thing as women that say it's all men's fault. When these young men come in there, they're saying it's all these old people's fault because they had a chance to save for 50 years and they have cash now. Which just makes sense. They would have cash, but it's all their fault because and you got to take responsibility for your actions, and you got to develop your own agency. You become your own agent, and you become, it's what MGTOW preaches all the time. MGTOW preaches that so much. Become your own man. You don't need women for validation. You don't need, I talked about that. What was that girl that we said was making those videos? I can't remember her name. I'll go back and look. Um, oh, blah 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 blah. I can't remember her name. That woman that's making videos about it. Yeah, she did that thing too, where it's like, oh, you men make men, you know, you lose agency in that, and it's just, it becomes pathetic when I hear it, and it's just a pathetic. And it's I know the answer right off, but most of the time I can't. I got into it this week with, oh, there was the big abortion argument into it. Did anybody enjoy the abortion argument on Twitter this week? Did you participate in it? I had 24,000 impressions on one comment. I guess I pushed, I slightly pushed the wrong button on somebody, and I had 24,000 impressions on it. And I can't remember what I said. I said something really logical, and I was accused of, oh, it was the HGGT thing, how you can tell if from 1 to 6 weeks, there's simple ways to tell. Before you get the ultrasound, there's simple ways to tell if a female has an unhealthy pregnancy or a healthy pregnancy. My ex-wife went through not two abortions, two miscarriages before we can have children, and at both times it came back with, oh, your enzymes are low, and that's HHG or HHG with a little thing that I can't type in, so I just call it HHG, and they can measure that and tell you whether the baby is going to be healthy or deformed or not or healthy. So the argument, Jessica Valente, the famous Jessica Valente, asked me, and I said, Jessica, there's simple ways to tell. She was like, all you men are just so evil and blah, blah, blah. You can't tell me how we're going to be able to tell that within 6 weeks that the babies are going to be healthy. And I went like this. I went, I know that one. I know that one. And I wrote it down. Then I got 24,000 scathing impressions on Twitter. And I was like, oh, man, should have never said anything. But that's what we MGTOWs do. We know the answers to these things. We practice logic. And it's just kind of, I endorse the sex strike too, Phil. The sex strike is great. They're just doing what we're doing. And I say, close those legs. Don't have abortions. You're not going to need one. If you close those legs, there's one thing for sure and two for certain, that man, there's going to be no metaphysical ghost that is going to come and impregnate you. You're not Mother Mary. And I know they all think they're Mother Mary from that biblical book, and they all want to be that. And no, that's not going to happen. I think someone crept into that tent that night and hit that. Yeah. So female agency is a big thing, and I wish I could give all the females agency. I wish I could. I wish I can show them how to do it like men do it. We take charge of things. We say this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. I'm taking charge of my own life, and that's what we do in MGTOW. We give ourselves permission to look down within our souls, with the inner things. We relieve ourselves of all validation from women, and that's what I told that one girl. I says, I says it's not that men. It's not really that MGTOW stop having sex and go celibate and everything. They just don't talk about it. It's not something they get validation from. So if I'm not getting, if that, what we're saying when we don't talk about those things, all men do these things, and I don't want to argue it. I don't talk about it. I'm not going to sit there. It's a don't ask, don't tell policies for me. I'm not going to, don't ask me. And I've gotten quite upset when men ask me about those things before. You've seen me at my best or at my worst, they would say. But when men ask me about that, I say, well, why are you asking me about that? You know, are you a freaking homo? You know? It's like, so it's a don't ask, don't tell policy. And that keeps us directly, single-mindedly on the subject of MGTOW if we're not detracted by all this this talk of other things. So MGTOW doesn't talk about that. And in that, we gain our agency. We gain we don't let the females, our masculinity doesn't come through our relationships with females. And I'll say that again, our masculinity does not come through relationships with females. And that's what I told that one girl. I don't know if she appreciated it or not. Most people don't appreciate my bluntness. And I don't have a rocker stand or anyways, you guys, what you guys talking about in there? Sitting without or lies. Sometimes I can't follow the thread. I'm trying to talk and I can't follow the thread. So what happened? And so we got two prime ministers, both men this week. Yes, we got two prime in Australia and England. Was it? I'm pretty sure about that. I could be wrong about that. Maybe I'm confusing one with the other or something. But let me know about that because I don't do much political reading. It's just I do Google, but I try to really when I open up Google nowadays, I punch on my Google app. The news comes up, and I like to read it quickly in the morning, and I just flip past the first section there because that's going to be all political news. And basically, we can see where people started killing each other, and there was a mass thing down in Brazil. It was kind of weird this morning when just now I looked at it actually about a half hour ago or an hour ago. I can't remember. There was a mass shooting in Brazil, and they were like, "Oh yeah, see how it is being like us. You wanted to be like us." Now they're having mass shootings. Um, And I can't ever remember a mass shooting in Brazil or countries like that. It's just, I thought that was unique to westernized countries like America. And they've had some in Russia, a few in France. They always have them in France. They prefer to blow each other up in France. But, and, oh, but mass shootings came up. So if you want to take on that kind of, if you want to take on our kind of politics, then yes, you get our kind of politics, and you're going to have angry people doing angry things and everything. There was an explosion in a tourist bus in Egypt, and how many times have you heard that you know, is there something I would never go visit on a tourist bus? The Egyptian pyramids, because there seems to be every year once or twice, unless it's just made up news or fake news or propaganda or something, every year once or twice that follows it precedes an event. Every time I've seen this story, it precedes an event that happens. Some kind of major story happens after this explosion hits tourist bus at Egypt's pyramids, and then somewhere down the line here in the next month or so, we get a major event. And I think it's just weird how that happens. That's when I first seen the article, I thought, yeah, now here it comes. Here it comes. What's going to be the major event? Probably the war in Iran. There's been a lot of talk about the war. We're gonna have our new fresh war in Iran, and that's not happy news. That's sad news for 120,000 troops that are going to go have to fight the Iranian people. And I don't think they're going to be like welcoming. It's like that's what the big thought was. They're just going to welcome us as liberators. We're going to be just marching, and they're going to be they're going to build an arch de triomphe for us, like the French did, and we're going to march in and like, hey, we're here. We're the liberators, Americans. I don't think that's going to happen. So the story was all kind of screwed up this week. I thought some Saudi oil tankers got blown up, and they blamed it on the Iranians, and so we took one of their ships. It was a Korean cargo ship going to Iran to pick up stuff or something. We took it, and we said, like, hey, this is ours now. That's America. We'll just take shit. Yeah, that's what started that's why we entered World War II, actually, because some of our ships got taken, and we weren't very happy about that by the German U-boats, and so we were very happy about that. And What else is going on in the news? What else happened this week? What happened in MGTOW? We've had a lot of arguments about what is MGTOW, and that's always what is everybody's trying to. And all the new guys are trying to explain what is their special brand of MGTOW. Grizzly decided to shed the label of MGTOW this week, and I was like, oh, Grizz, you're going to shed the label? You pulled their. I do it. A lot. I'll shed the label of MGTOW, and then like a month later, as soon as I can change it back, I'll just change back to Traversable MGTOW again. I've done it about 6 or 7 times, and I think it's just funny. But I like to do it just to be funny. But I don't know if you guys feel that's funny or not. Oh man! So what else happened in the news? AMD still kicking ass on Intel. I like that. I just love that story. AMD is just pumping that shit out and doing that. So Brexit news. They've got a new. Corbyn says he won't support the new attempt at the new Brexit deal, just like the last attempt at the last Brexit. Why is Corbyn always not supporting the new attempt at the new deal? And he don't care who's the prime minister now. He's just not going to support. He's just not going to support it. He's like the Republicans up, and anything that comes before me, I'm just not going to support. And that's funny. It just so how are you going to get it done if this guy's just going to say no, we're not going to support that. So that may go on. There was some interesting news. A billionaire today volunteered to pay grad students loans as commencement at a commencement seat with this billionaire from this Morehouse College. So he came in, and that's the way it was supposed to work. Isn't that the way trickle down economics was supposed to work? I'm pretty sure back in the Reagan times where the billionaires would start doing altruistic things, and then you get the money trickles down. So it's at Morehouse College, and I can't remember. Let me go see what that guy's name is. It's Robert Smith stunned the graduates in a commencement speech, offered to pay their estimated $40 million in graduate seniors tuition fees, so every one of those kids will get to go on to their life debt free, and that's a good thing. I think that's what a lot of arguments have been about. I haven't really followed why you would want to spend that kind of $90,000 on college so you can get a social studies degree, and it has nothing to do with anything in the real world. It just baffles me. But we don't want to talk about that today. So Robert Smith, he's an Afro-American billionaire that stunned the college graduates. I thought that was really nice of him. That was really great of him to do that. But if this thing happens, maybe the billionaires will start acting like the billionaires are supposed to start acting, and really start doing the trickle down economics. And that's an indicator, I would say, was to be an indicator of that. But political violence is the new norm in Great Britain. Is there a lot? There's a lot. I try not to. I should click my my Google News. You know, you can put it in and click it over to the Great Britain news once in a while, just so I know what's going on over there. More political violence. There was a lot of earlier this week. There was a lot of political violence in the Ukraine. Yeah, it was the Ukraine. Oh, yeah, interesting story in the Ukraine. That guy he had to leave his office, and they got a new. Well, there's there's three new prime ministers in the Ukraine or Austria. One of the two. They kicked him out because he got caught on tape. He said he was drunk, and he got caught on tape. The prime minister of that country. I don't know what they call the prime minister, like the Grand Master or something, or the Grand Poobah in Austria. But he got he resigned because he got caught on tape making deals with the Russians. Some woman got him drunk. She Me Too'd his ass. She didn't really Me Too his ass. She just got him drunk and got him talking, and he said the wrong things. So that was an interesting thing. I can't remember the actual story, so I don't know. Oh yeah, the actual abortion story is kind of disturbing at a point, because it's one of those instances. The the governor of the state of Alabama, do you know how she got in? Do you guys remember how she got into? She was the lieutenant governor. She got in through the Me Too. They Me Too'd his ass, same as they did with the guy up in Michigan. They Me Too'd his ass, and then the lieutenant governor was the she just moved into the governor's spot, and then and the people didn't vote for her. And I'm not sure if in Michigan it was the I can't remember the guy up there. He was one of the famous actors, and he became but there was several of those things where she Me Too'd her way right up to the top of the gubernatorial position, which shouldn't be allowed to happen, but that's what it is in Alabama. And then they voted her in because there's no one else to vote for after that. All the guys were scared to death to run, and Claire. And all the guys are scared to death to run about that, and they just don't want to do that anymore, because so they just let it be. She tooed. Yes, she tooed his ass. But that's also common nowadays, how you can move up in companies and corporations, and if you play your cards right, you can move up, and you got a sexy ass body like I do. If you're extremely pretty, that's how I do that, because that's Buffalo Bob. He goes, I'd fuck me. I'm so pretty. Buffalo Bob, that's my Buffalo Bob imitation. Or Buffalo Bill, or what? And the Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. You swore. You swore not to use that. I always do that. It's like, I'm so pretty. I'd fuck me. I just think that's the funniest thing in the world. When I seen it, I just laughed so hard. Yeah, so the news has been interesting. But what's going on in the MGTOW? MGTOW has become so. Grizz left, and he had some complaints about MGTOW being weak, and I think a lot of people have some philosophically weak MGTOW. I think that's most of the complaint, and I see a lot of. I watched a couple of those where all they talked about is hitting a. I'm going to go out there and they're going to shove my D in it, and that was the MGTOW talk. And I think I go back to what I told that young lady. I says a MGTOW doesn't get his masculinity through women. It's like that saying, I don't validate myself through acts that I do with women. It doesn't make me more masculine that I do that, but that's what we're told. We're told that it makes us more masculine if we do that. And a matter of fact, it's a paradox, because it makes you less masculine. Your testosterone drops and your estrogen rises when you do those things. So actually being around women for a long time makes you less masculine. It makes you more masculine to stay away from women. You get this stuff happening, and you get testosterone in your body, and you start looking like a man arms, when your testosterone actually rises in normal situations, when you're not whoring around or rubbing women on you. I just grab them and I rub them on me. You're rubbing, it's just use them as soap. I think men would just wear their skin, and that's another Buffalo Bob. Are you a size 14? Buffalo Bill, or Buffalo Bill reference. Are you a size 14? Some of these guys, they talk about that. They get their validation through their acts, their depraved acts with the female. One of the guys, and I was watching that. So the quality, I'll digress to what I was talking about. The quality in MGTOW has dropped off. There's not a lot of philosophy around, and man, I think I'm the only one that actually does MGTOW philosophy anymore. And I was looking at Nietzsche today. I was looking at the Ubermensch, the Superman or the Overman, and as an answer to the Christianity, because the Christianity, that's the hybrid Christianity we get in and in MGTOW, and I'll read you what I put on my comments, and maybe you'll understand it. Maybe it comes from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. As Zarathustra was a Middle Eastern man that Nietzsche was fascinated with. He made himself God, and then he made himself the Superman, and he said, "I made myself God." So I took all the words and I made it my little saying, and I use it now. Every time I see a discussion about God, I use it. I said, I made myself God. I criticized God for having made us so poorly. And then I punished him for not being able to do his work on his own bidding and save us. He said he was going to save us, and thus God died. Zarathustra said God died. So what he was saying, I criticized God for having made us so poorly. All humans are poorly made. We're seriously flawed. And then he says, I punished them, which is a metaphysical it's a metaphysical thing. He punished God by saying that he will now be, and he made himself. God died, and he made himself his own God. And then he says he went to the valley of where there were no animals, and this work becomes kind of TFL-ish in MGTOW. And I was looking at this today for TF Nietzsche. It's pronounced Nietzsche, but I can't do that because I'm not at that time. What was the Dutchy? And the Dutchy lingo and language is pretty much over, and that comes from the Dutch, and I can't say it like that, so I have no idea. Yeah, because there's a Z in there, and drives me nuts. And he says God died. That's who first proclaimed Zarathustra. Thus spoke Zarathustra, 1854, said that God had died, and he made himself his own God, and he went to this forest where there was no people, and he met the ugliest man in the world. And this way, okay, so we see this with TFLs and simps. He was a true TFL and a simp, and he was a true incel, and he met the ugliest man in the world. And Nietzsche talks about this, and he said, I, the man who killed God, was momentarily stunned and shamed by these things because the ugliest man in the world was standing before me. And but I soon got over my pity for him, he said. We have to stop pitying these people. That's what I do when I do with incel. I stop pitying them. I've become my own God. In MGTOW, we make ourselves our own God because we don't no longer believe in silly things. We put away childish beliefs and everything, if we do look at that, we look at it like, if there is a God, why did he make us so poorly? I mean, my knees hurt. I didn't want to be made that poorly. It's like using substandard materials for us. Any engineer would know the right materials to use. So he says he was more, Nietzsche says he was momentarily, he was being Zarathustra. And he says, I'm Zarathustra, and I was momentarily stunned by pity. I overcame my pity and returned to my senses. And the great pity that falls upon people looking on the ugliest man in the world. And we're talking about incels, and we're talking about TFLers. He says the great pity that they feel for the ugliest men, and they suffered, and it suffers, it offends my senses of shame, he says. And that's what we feel when we look upon the TFLs and incels. You offend my sense of shame when you do that. So he said, I killed God because God could see everything, and he knows everything, and he knows about you, and but he didn't do nothing about you, and he felt pity for you, and that I'm offended, I'm shamed for that. I have to take that shame. So in other words, I became God when I killed God. And the Superman directed the ugliest man in the world to out of the woods and back to his home, and that's about an altruistic act. A lot of people forget that about when you become Zarathustra, when you become the Superman, the Overman, the Ubermensch. What are you supposed to do? Well, you take our incel brothers and you give them a big hug, and you say, "You may be I'm not going to show you pity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the way home." And we take them into MGTOW and we accept them. So that was my Nietzsche readings today. And I was going to do a little more. It's funny how I picked up the book. I had it around here, and I picked it up because it had 154 pages in it, and it was it was a book about this by like this. It was about that big. It was one of those bigger paperbacks that they used to make. They used to make paperbacks bigger back in the 1940s and 50s. So I was trying to figure out. We got to come back to the page. I was trying to figure out how many pages of a paperback book I would need and what paperback book I would need, because I'm tiling my floor back here and I don't want to do standard tiles. What I wanted to do was the Elmer's glue in the paper, and the Elmer's glue the paper down and then you urethane over it. So I figured instead of using the paper that they suggest, I was going to take some of these books, these books that I have just around here, and I was going to take all the old paperbacks and I was going to tear them up, and I was going to use that as the paper, and then I would have a philosophy room that the floor had thus spoke Zarusta, and then it has the rebel over here. And every time I wanted to look at a passage, I just looked down at the ground. What do you think? You think it'll work out? so, so I'm going to polyurethane over the books that I tear the pages out, but I have to read them before. I'm going to read them as I go, and I'm going to do it real slow because I have no knees left, and I can't kneel on the floor, and my son's not been around for a while to help me out with these things. So I wanted to do it real quick, and I've been trying to figure out how I can do it real quick. So I got the rollers and the Elmer's glue ready, and I got the urethane ready and everything, and then I got the pans, and I'm just going to waste rollers. I'm going to take one roller for each thing, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to buy like a pack of 6, and when I get done, I'm just throwing them out as I go, and I'm just going to use a stick so I don't have to. But getting that paper actually on the ground, that's going to be the hard part. And I'm arranging it where when I look down, this desk right here is going to be over there. I was supposed to do that today, move this stuff, but I decided to do the floor. So I'm going to do the floor in philosophy. It'll be a philosophy floor of 3 books. Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and then I'm going to do the Rebel. And then I was thinking about if I needed extra pages, I was going to do the brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. And so I was going to use that. I was going to use that whole book because that's a thicker book too. And I get more pages out of it. Subbed. Who'd you sub to? Okay, what are you guys talking about? If you guys got any thing you want to talk about, I'm just going on today. If you guys got anything you want to talk to, or anybody wants to come in and talk, you're always welcome to come and talk. Matter of fact, I'll do that now. I'll just paste that. I'm just going to paste that in there. And if anybody wants to come in and speak, I always give everybody the opportunity to do that. And before I'll usually wait a while, and then I go off the air. But no one ever comes in anymore. I miss our Shining. We used to have Shining around here, and he used to come in all the time. But so we miss Shining, and we have to replace Shining. But there's very few English people out there with perfect English voices like Shining. So I'm waiting for the next English guy to come on. I was hoping Sue Slayer would be in, because that's where Sue Slayer takes his name on chapter 3 from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Was Sue Slayer was one of the characters in the beginning. Sue Slayer was Zarathustra's friend. And I was hoping Sue Slayer would be in, so I could acknowledge that I knew where his name come from when I did that little bit. Joe Cool. Hit it back in a second. What needs to be bridged between younglings and the old me? Yeah, what needs to? That's what I was just thinking when I was trying to get onto that. And I don't know. I don't know everything. I think there's portions of group dynamics that I should go back on. And right now I'm so stressed. I'm taking 2 courses at the same time, and I don't. Man, at my age and and my dwindling intellect, I don't need to be taking 2 courses at the same. I overlapped them just because I got interested, and I was going to do a cognitive therapy course, and I did a cognitive therapy course. I'm doing it now, and and I just I don't know why I'm doing it. Don't ask me. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to become a psychiatrist, but I just thought it would be interesting because it's interesting overlays with the young MGTOWs and the old MGTOWs, and then how people will attack us and everything, and how people will come out. They want to pit the young against the old, the guys against the girls. They want to pit the slaves against the other slaves. And as long as the slaves are fighting amongst themselves, they'll never get together as a group, as a movement. And that thus the master, and we were talking about Zoroaster, we were talking about the master, and Zoroaster is one of the slaves, by the way. By the way, if you didn't know that, there's the camel, and then there's the Superman, and there's the baby. Nietzsche's three, the three slaves. A lot of people get that mistaken. Zoroaster is the slave because he always ends up fighting with the other slaves. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the young against the old, and both are becoming the Superman. And in MGTOW, you become your own God, you become your own Superman, you throw away childish things, and then you get these tensions between the young and the old, like back in the 1840s, 54, and that. And I can hear Dougie barking out there. I wonder if he got himself tied up again. Dougie always ties himself up again. I may have to take a short break here because he's out there barking, and either someone's out there or he's tied himself up. He's blind. Dougie's blind. So what he does, and I don't know if you ever seen a blind dog, and he can't hear, and he walks in circles. So he's got, I got the thinnest thing I could possibly tie him with, but he wraps it up in circles around himself, and he ties himself up. Then he falls over because he tied himself up within the chain, or the wire. And then I'm looking at him like, that's incredible. That's incredible, Doug. And then he'll sit there and bark like that for me to come get him. I see it more like awareness in the movement. Yeah, there's a certain amount of awareness of this philosophy, of the MGTOW philosophy, that the young guys, they're still validating themselves through their interactions with it, pounding on the girls and making that hurt and giving her, the D and all that. And they're still getting validation from that. And the old guys see that as, you guys don't get that part about validation. It's not something that's heir apparent. It's something within you that you have to fix. And when you're doing that, and when you're not being of a monk, and you're talking about those things, and you can't get over those things, you're obtaining validation by the amount of, split V you get. And then they still do that, but they don't see they do that. Persian, Iranian, Aryan. Yes. I don't see the MGTOW as, let me put that up. I don't see MGTOW as a religion, but I do see it as historically repleting the rhyme. See rape of Sabin women. Yeah. MGTOW sort of kind of comes around. There was a good example back in Nietzsche and Camus is a good example too. 50s, 54s, and everything. Camus was a good example of the interdynamics that plays out between Don Juan, which is the PUAs, and the aesthetic, and then he called them the dandy, and he called it the things that played out between the dandy and off my mind, I can't remember. So there was these two groups, the four groups of the four parts of the sign. We got the MGTOWs, we got the MRAs, and then we got the PUAs, and then we got the going Galters. There's four groups, and it plays out in history the same way. It would be interesting for MGTOWs to name the groups in relationship to their place in philosophy. And then we can get a better view on how the groups play out and interact with each other as men, because I think MGTOW does have it right. Uh, how the dandy, what he called the dandy, which was a '60s line for the well-dressed man of character, and I can't remember the other one. I usually remember this, but and the aesthetic, which is us, in the clown, he called them. He called them the clowns. They're the it was the dandy and the PUA and the aesthetic and the clown. That's the way that went. And there's four sides of the sign, and the clown are the kids now that just can't see they're getting their validation from the females still. And Camus would say, no, don't ever. I got 3 girlfriends and a wife, and I don't give any one of them. If she asks me if it's her business whether I'm doing other girls, I tell her, no, this is my body, my choice. In that, I'm going to take a short break here. I got to go outside. I got to let Dougie in. So if you got anything you want to talk about, put it in the low bar, and I'll talk about when I get back. Hey, if you haven't got your blessing today, go your own way. Go your own way, MGTOW. I'm back. He got himself all tangled up. And he broke my glasses. How do let me see, put these back in. He's got to pop it in. There we go. And now they got fingerprints all over him. Dougie's a handful. When you get a blind, deaf dog, I don't recommend it for everybody. But Dougie is a handful. I'll put that up in the glasses holder. So what were we talking about? Where were we at? We're talking about the dynamics, the group dynamics between the now I'm out of breath because I ran all that way. I ran over there and tried to get him untangled. I should have stopped and got myself a Pepsi on the way back. I had to go buy the refrigerator. It's funny, this house is that the refrigerator sits against this back wall here, but you got to go all the way around to get to it. And it just pissed me. I was going to pop a hole in this wall right over here and put a little refrigerator in it. So I had another refrigerator, so I don't have to go to the outskirts of the house to get there. To get tape would work. Dang, thermodynamic inflation. Oh, thermodynamic entropy inflation. Oh, yeah. I was looking at an article this week that was on that subject, but I don't want to go into that. The finances of state finances, about the entropy of state finances. But yeah, we were looking at the group dynamics of the young MGTOWs and the old MGTOWs and the MGTOWs that are still validating to their getting validation from how many women they could poke. Yeah. And when you grow up in MGTOW, anybody after 4, 5, 6 years, they become the monk and they stop talking about those things. And it's don't ask, don't tell. I don't share those things because I don't get validation from them. If we do those acts, it's we consider them private acts, which our government, and that's the problem. Our government wants to be at the end of your bed with God, and then they both point and laugh and film you, and they like yeah, God and the government sit at the end of your bed and they want to watch. And Jerry Farwell, isn't that a weird one? Jerry Farwell Jr. That's some news this week. Jerry Farwell Jr. has a homosexual thing going. I would say that the homosexuality and the way he runs his business and everything takes second to the third that he was letting the guy cuck his wife. And cuckservatism will not do. And the worst thing you can say to a MGTOW is that you're a cuck, because that's uncurable. You can never be a MGTOW. You can never even be a men's rights activist. We don't even accept you anywhere if you're a cuck. Like what's his name down there? Jeb Bush admitted to being a cuck, and Jerry Farwell Jr. just came out and he got caught up with some risque. Trav does tape. Trav does not tape his cam though, so yeah, tape would work. Yeah, so the cuck tape on the glasses. Yeah, the thing. My brother used to do that. It used to drive me nuts. I went and bought him New Ends one day, and I put him on his glasses because he put the tape around it. And I was like, "You dork! You're such a geek." And he was a geek when he was growing up. But Jerry Farwell Jr. got himself all hemmed up this week with tapes of Pooh Boy. I call him the Pooh Boy. And he was all over the news this week. He didn't want to be called the Pool Boy. So, okay, well, you're not the Pool Boy. You're the Pooh Boy. I made a bunch of jokes about it on Twitter. I don't think that the alt-righties get the righties, the alt-righties, they get really mad when you make jokes about the conservative Christian party. So they got all a little angry at me. Cuck tapes. Yeah, he had cuck tapes made. He had cuck videos. And then there was this article in the Christian Monitor or something is like, did Jerry Farwell violate Christian ethics? And like, hell yeah, he did. Don't be such hypocrites about this. Was doing homosexuality, which those guys don't like, and they think Jesus gonna cure all the homosexuals, and he was doing cucking, but for Christians, this cuck thing seems to be very popular. Christians aren't big cucks, anyways. They're the biggest cucks. Traditional cuckservatives are the biggest cucks we got, and that's the biggest detractor of that's the biggest detractors of MGTOW. They hate us. They absolutely hate us for being single and happy and not having stress in our lives where we don't have to abuse a hole at night. That's all they do is they take and God's watching them and cheering them on. Yay, God's like, whew. And since I've made myself God, it must be me that's watching them at the end of their bed. And I'm Zoroaster. Yeah, they think God's watching him and cheering him on while he's sodomizing his wife every night, and they think that's okay. And then they just become effeminated losers and cucks. And they don't see how the estrogen has a lot to play in that role. But if you mention it, my God, they get mad about that because it reminds them of things that they're doing wrong. And like I said, that's Joe's paradox. I made that paradox up, so I made it up. Like bad cops don't like to be called bad cops, and police don't like thieves don't like to be called thieves. If you ever catch a thief and you call him a thief, you'd be like, "No, I'm not a thief. Bad cop." Oh no, I'm not a bad cop. They get incensed. Cucks don't like to be called cucks. White knights don't like to be called white knights, and simps don't like to be called simps. It's Joe's paradox. They just don't like that. It's like they think it's a paradox in their traditional blue pill world that they are that, but they're not allowed to call them that because that's ad hominem. I say it's not ad hominem if it's not true. If it's true, it can't be an ad hominem because it's true. It's just news then. It's news to them, at least, and that's why it's Joe's paradox. I know, but they'll never name it after me. Someone will come along and they'll steal it from me, and then they'll name it after themselves, some intellectual with that gives all of his credits and stuff, and sits down and says, "I have an MBA in social psychology, so I can make up a paradox." I'll have a doctorate in social psychology someday. Um, if I do the courses close enough, because that's what happens. All you guys that know that you do the courses, and then 5 years from now, the courses aren't worth anything. You have to do the courses over again. So the older you get, the more courses you just get to do. That's why I'm an endless grind of doing courses. From the time I was like 28 to now, when I'm, well into my 50s. So that becomes a problem, and I can see how the build, but I never had that problem because I never had I never got I never got the GI loan. I never got I never got my college paid for. I was a poor Irish kid. They looked at my name and said, "You'll burn." Oh yeah, you're an Irish guy. Sorry, you can't get that. Yeah, the PUAs like to play with snakes. They like to play with their own snakes a lot, but they like to play with snakes, and not necessarily the alternate lifestyle that spawns the awareness of MGTOW spreads comes naturally. Yeah, and it's a matter of what individuals decide to do after taking the red pill. Yeah, we had a discussion about that after it. Uh, you just start living MGTOW, and then once you live MGTOW, you become MGTOW, and then you can see the new guys flowing in, and there's this ever movement of it's a reciprocal movement in MGTOW, and you'll get to notice it, and how it's like clockwork. Every year you'll get an influx, and then most of them will leave. A few of them will stay, and then no one stays around pretty much to gain all the knowledge that it takes to be a MGTOW. Because you have to rewire your thinking so much, and you start saying, oh, well, no, I can't be a father, stuff like that. I'm not, I can't have a baby, so why am I responsible for those children? On the whole philosophy on life changes. The cuck would say, we're having a baby. Ooh, no, we're not having a baby. She's having a baby. She's responsible. She gains agency by making the decision whether to have a baby or not, by opening those legs or keeping those. She gains more agency by keeping those legs shut, and she can't blame it on men. Men didn't impregnate you. Let me see, who's anyone know when okay, that's Joey. Joey's I should put my I should let him know that I'm in here. Let me copy that. Yeah, so there's going to be some growing processes with the young guys, but I think there should be I was thinking about doing this, and I have most of it written already in docs. Uh, it would be like a book like this. It's a small book on tyranny, and it's like 100 pages on tyranny, and it was the little book of MGTOW, and then we can have I can get it printed out, and what is MGTOW, how MGTOW works, all the blah 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 garbage on and the common stuff. MGTOW is a group of men that are find solvency in their cells, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But I have about 120 pages, I suppose, written already, and I'll just have to run it through the editor and then put it on a little book, and try to keep them cheap. Like $2 a piece. I probably sell them for $2 a piece on Amazon, and and have a book. That would be a great idea. Just if I had some help to do that, that would be great too. But tits, yeah, they are fascinating. The teats, they are fascinating when you're a young man. You're like, wow, they have those. Yeah, and those things got mass amounts of some men like to put their mouths on those things, and you hear the jokes. If it's more than a mouthful, it's a waste of time, stuff like that. The cucks always make those jokes. If it's more than a mouthful, then it's a waste. And I think that's a baby reference. They're still breastfeeding, and they always make them. But if you can put your mouth on those things produce a lot of oxytocin. The tips of it, uh, that stuff has like it naturally produces oxytocin on there. Now, if a man gets that's a cuddle. It makes you very what it does is it makes a baby cuddle to the mom, so he wants to breastfeed. So if men get that stuff in them, the oxytocins, they act the same way. They're like simpish, and that's what makes the simp. You ever see the guys are simping for her? They're like they don't know why they're over enmeshed with her. Well, it's the oxytocin that she puts on because he's putting his mouth on that. Babies drink from the teats. Yeah, the teats are, but there's a chemical on the teats that is oxytocin that makes the babies want to do. A baby is not born with the ability to know that the teats, the mother's teats, are he'll reject it at first until he gets a little bit on his lips, and then there's a chemical that goes right to his brain, and he's like it's a cuddle chemical. Then he starts feeding. It's a chemical that sets that off. But if you, as a man, and if a simp or at least one of these young guys, you got to tell them, don't put your mouths on that because then you're going to get over enmeshed with her. Uh, that's when men get the withdrawal symptoms after she leaves, and he's like, "Oh man, she left, and my heart's sinking, and I'm in love with her." No, you're having withdrawal symptoms from having too much oxytocin in you, and you're addicted. So I say it's addicting. It's an addicting process, but these are things that we need to write down in a book so we can explain to the young men like there's certain things you don't do, and brothers will tell you never put your mouth down there on that. You know that's horrible. It's like taking it's the same dose when you put your mouth down on that. It's the same dose as they would give people that were transitioning to another another gender. So they're giving them estrogen so they can transition to the next gender. I did the research on that one day, and I found out that putting your mouth down there, the factory where it makes it, is very, very bad for you. And the brothers will tell you that. Most of the brothers say, no, no, don't do that. None of us have absolute answers. Orange boobies are cuddle traps. Yes, boobies are cuddle traps, Victor. Wherever I tried leading a horse, it backfires on me. Yeah, you can't try to lead the horse. You could take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I think that's the old saying. Worker bees can leave, even drones can fly away. The queen is the slave. Yeah, in that situation, the queen is the slave. Chuck Palahniuk at Fight Club. He had what was the I am Jack's I am Jack's pain, and I am Jack's broken ego, and I am Jack's every problem Jack had. He put down in a Fight Club. The book of I would like to. I wonder if they ever published that book of. I thought I seen it online. Jack's the book of Jack's knowledge or whatever they call it. I think someone wrote it actually from the movie. Maybe Palahniuk did. I applied myself to a mission, raise awareness in other communities like crypto communities. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what we do. We all do our little parts here in MGTOW. I say that's usually my ending. I say that we all have our parts. We do. We get out and I go over the sports pages and try to irritate the guys in my perspective sports pages. And I take all the sports news that is relevant to MGTOW, and then that's what I talk about all the time over there. You know that Ray Rice, his little girl punched him 5 times in that elevator, and nobody said nothing about that. She was like, "Oh, Claire on him," and and she was drunk and punching him. But when it came down to his career about defending himself, they took away his career. Ray Rice. They just did that to somebody else in football too. He's on the Cleveland Browns. I can't remember his name. They just drafted him. He punched a hoe in the hallway in a Cleveland What was that guy's name from Kansas City? If you guys remember his name, put it in there. Copy and save. Crypto guys tend to talk about wife changing money when crypto guys tend to talk about changing money when they jump in. Yeah, a lot of the monetary MGTOW money and that stuff. When they talk about the MGTOW money, it's how the money can get them a woman that will be subservient. And of course, everybody knows. I mean, if you're in search and they're still searching, they're still looking for that validation. They're telling on themselves, but in that validation, they've come to the red pill awakening that the world's hypergamy and money is what women find attractive. I mean, not all guys can be pretty like me. Law changing money is better. Yeah. Yeah. So women are hypergamous. We all know that. And if you're still searching, you're still validating, searching for that validation of a woman, then money is going to be one of those things. But if you're saving it for your future, which I haven't been able to do because I lived through the 80s and the 90s where I lost my 401s 3 times, George Bush, Amron, and then the crash. I pulled it out right before the crash, and then I was going to put it in, and I ended up spending it on a new van. So there goes my retirement. I'm an ass. I know I'm an ass. I'm not a saving person. I'm not a MGTOW money person. I wish I was a MGTOW money person. But most of my life I was married, so what do I know about money? I was giving it away free for most of my life there. And there wasn't MGTOW around there to tell me, hey, Joe, you should save your money and not tell her where that's at. And because she'll spend it. Oh, yeah, she will. She will. My God, she will. I'm cracking boyfriends. You did the best. Some of us were lucky. Yeah, I did the best I could. I bought into that whole deal where I thought that was going to work out, and no. And then I lost the bar. We lost the bar, and then we lost. She took all the money and spent it on crack and her boyfriend, and that's when she gave me the best lesson of my life. She says none of my business what she does with her body, and I thought, well, geez, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I know that earlier? And Stardust does today his last video yesterday about the same topic, and it was about when the girls were leaving. They always said something true about which the MGTOWs say all the time. She said something true about you can be replaced. He put it. Stardust said you can be replaced, and he's right. When the girls are exiting out the door and they're thinking about things that are truities in life, uh, it's none of my business what she does with her body. It's her body, her choice. She can have sex with whoever she wants. But the hypocrisy, what I tried to say with Stardust, there was a hypocrisy of that earlier in the relationship when I was, kind of free, and she was yelling at me all the time and stressing my life out, saying that I was cheating. And but I wish I was cheating, and I wish I would have saved my money, and I wish I would have I wish I would have been a better provider for them. I wish I would have been a better provider for myself. So that's where the hypocrisy of that comes back, and it backbites you at the end when she does say the truth. And it's usually a real MGTOW line that a woman will say at that point. In my case, it's none of your business what I do with my body. And that's the attitude I should have had all my life. It's none of nobody's business what I do with this. And I don't talk about it, and nobody asks me about it. And that's the MGTOW monk. I don't talk about it. Nobody asks me. It's nobody's business who I'm seeing, what I'm making. It's none of nobody's business. Any of those things I refuse to talk about with people in my life. And that's what I always should have been. But we see those things on the hindsight of our addiction, which is the female. And that's when we're coming off of the addiction. And they say, you hit rock bottom, you will learn some some truths about the world and those things. You will learn lessons about things, and so Stardust was quite right about those things and the thing he did yesterday. And I appreciated that he still does those videos. He's still around and making the videos and talking like Stardust. He's very articulate. And hey, Steve. Steve Hoka Rock and Roll, what's up? I was gonna put the thing in, but I thought you knew about it. I was talking. Yeah, so we're just talking. We're just shooting the shit today. We are. We're just talking about news and shooting the shit, and we're talking about. I don't know what the main topic was today. Did we have a main topic? I don't think we had a main topic. It was just news and women, and I think the main topic that did develop is we're talking about the gender dynamic or the interdynamics, the interpersonal dynamics between the group dynamics between the young MGTOWs, the old MGTOWs, the PUAs, and the PUAs and the other side and the MRAs and that's the way it worked out too. Like Camus would say, the MRAs are the dandy and the PUAs are the Don Juans, and then there's some there's a relationship that plays out between them, and then you got the going galt and then the aesthetic on the other side. And I don't know what that relationship that plays out. We should look into that and do some Venn circles. We'll do some graphs and some algebra with some Venn circles and some sociology to see how the interdynamics and MGTOW plays out. And whether it really is 3 groups or 2 groups or 4 groups, I think it's 4 groups, but I could be wrong about that. Fake Bible stories. Yeah, we had that young man. I put that as I talked about thus spoke Zarathustra and how I made myself God. And the interdynamics between the Christian MGTOWs, which are the conservative MGTOWs that want to go back to the 50s and be in charge, be large and in charge, and they're going to be the go-getters again, and they're going to bring home the bacon, and the girl's going to be standing there with a warm pie and the apron wrapped around her, and she's like, looks like Mrs. Cleaver. Mrs. Cleaver was hot, wasn't she? The second Mrs. Cleaver in the new one about 1994, Leave It to Beaver, she was really hot, and but she's standing there with that pie, and she got the apron and the 1950s version of the imagined female, and that's what they're doing. They're imagining the female in traditionalism. Freud talked about that. And since we were talking about it before, the breasts, the tits, what men do in their minds is they imagine the perfect breasts, and then every woman ever in their life, they take off that shirt, and I had a story about that. I was trying to get that point across to somebody. I think it was C.S. MGTOW. I was talking to C.S. MGTOW, and he was trying to goad me into talking about my last relationship. So I told him a story about a girl that came over. She took off her shirt, and she had a vein that ran down. You ever have a girl that has a vein running down on her breast? And then so I sent her away. And that was my Freud's breast, that they didn't measure up. And what I was saying to him is women don't measure up to my standards anymore. The idealized breast in the head, women never, and that's what the traditional conservatives do. They have this idealized female in their head, and then they do the traditionalism, and then like the Wally Cleaver's, Beaver Cleaver's mother, and Jane Cleaver in the 1950s scenario, when she's standing there with a fresh baked pie with that look like, I'm so glad you're home. That's not reality. That's Disney Pixar shit, where if you're looking forward to that, what I could look for when I came home from my relations is most of the time the house wasn't clean, she was out, the dinner wasn't made, and the kids were coming home from school. That's what I got to look forward to. I don't know about you guys, but that was she was out screwing her boyfriend, and she may come home somewhere around 10 o'clock that night, drunk and on crack, and and I would have to take care of the kids. I know that's just hilarious. But that's, that's the horror, the horror. It's like, it's like that Apocalypse Now. He's looking up at the fan at the beginning, going, the horror, the horror. I felt that way. So I'm looking up at the fan after my marriage, going, God, I am in such pain. But in the end there, that's where we get our truths. And that was Stardust was talking about. And that's what I say. She gave me the best truth of my life. And I realized that at the point that anything I did after that, it was none of nobody's business what I do. It's none of the government's business. I ain't the father. That can be easily snatched from you. It can be easily taken away. In a moment in a divorce court, you can lose your fatherhood. So that tells you, Descartes would say, take everything off the table and put that on the table. And then when they take it away in that moment of it, was it real? Was it solid? Or was it a metaphysical idea that they wanted to buy you to buy into? Fatherhood is a metaphysical idea that they want you to buy into. That means pay-tor, that means pay-e, that means payer terminal, which means ATM to a female. Father and ATM are the same word, taken back to the German and Latin. Isn't that funny how that works out that way? So we did do our research on that in MGTOW. We do a lot of research in MGTOW, but nobody ever talks about the research we do individually. Wow, someone just bashed the stop sign out there, and Dougie's back out there barking again. He probably tied himself. He ties himself up all the time, and it drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. I should have brought him in last time and gave him the rest of his can, but I decided he likes it outside. Even though he's deaf and he's blind, he feels the wind on his face, and he can smell. He's got a sniffer work still, and he can smell all those smells, and that's where he gets his I guess that's where his world comes from, his smell now. And he can feel me when I pick him up and I give him a big hug. and and uh and so his world is me picking him up and carrying him around, and his smell. So he likes to be outside, but then he ties himself up. I don't know if there's an analogy there. Wasted their lives and liver anyways. Who wasted some training partners I was supposed to have apparently is serious. Okay, it's talking about. But when Dougie is blue pill, he can't help it. He gets tied up. Yeah, Dougie's blue pill. He's blue pill as fuck. He's terrible. He used to be terrible. Dougie, he raped the dog next door. He threw her to the ground and he raped her. And then there was another dog up the street. Her dog got loose and Dougie got loose at the same time. And I was like, oh no, Dougie's gonna rape her. And he raped that dog too. And he was biting her as he was raping her. So he raped the dog next door and he raped the dog up the street. He's a blue pill guy. Dougie is blue pill, but now he's deaf and blind. It's funny, there's been a rash of MGTOWs. I wanted to talk about that a little. There's been a rash of MGTOWs that all lost their dogs at the same time. I see Warhorse lost his dog right about the time Dougie got sick, and one of the other guys lost their dog too. And I was like, man, the feminists are poisoning our dogs. And that wouldn't be so far off because that's kind of what they do. They poison things. They poison everything. And I got to wonder if somebody poisoned Dougie to get back at me for being a MGTOW, and he pulled through because, well, I took him to the doctor and paid for it. So feminism owes me that. I'm going to just say that it happened. I'll make a conspiracy theory about it and say that it happened and say feminism, you owe me $1,200 and I'm going to collect. And there will be monthly interest until that's paid in full. They owe me a lot more than that, I can swear. I swear feminism has been horrible when I was at the end of the relationship when she was smoking crack and having a boyfriend. She ran through all the money, and I put that on their bill too. That was $120,000. So their bills ran up over 15 years, 16 years, and it's multiplying in interest, and I'm going to collect on that someday from feminism. You agree, Victor, that you see these things there. So I think we're running down on time today, and I've spent my Sunday. I did my Sunday church, and for you guys that didn't get your blessings, go your own way, MGTOW, go your own way, and all your sins from the past are forgiven, and all that blah 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 blah. And I think I'm gonna wrap this thing up now, and since no one come in, I must terrify people. I don't know. Do I terrify people? Man, I don't know. I must terrify people. No one likes to come into the Traversable podcast anymore. I got to start searching for guests. I used to do that meticulously. That was one of the hardest part, getting guests in every week. And when I was making the podcast every Sunday morning and every Saturday and every Thursday, I think I did it. I can't remember how many I did back then, thousands of them. And getting guests for the week, I had to search around and then go talk to every new guy and everything and ask them if they wanted to be a guest. But I don't do that. I'm lazy now. I was talking about that with Grizzly today. I mean, the lack of my channel success. There was a feminist that said, that YouTube was holding her channel back on Facebook and everything, and then I just kind of made a joke about it with Grizzly. It's like, yeah, it was like, it wasn't me being lazy or not willing to put in the work it takes to have a great channel. It's not that I'm fat and irritating too, and it's like, yeah, none of that stuff matters. It was just that Susan and people from YouTube hate me. It must be, because I can't take responsibility or agency for my actions. I suppose if I wanted a better channel, I could do every single day like Sandman and fix my screen back there so it actually works and displays some interesting information as we go upon and do some actual work. But I'm fat and lazy, and I don't like to do anything but like sit on the couch and drink beer when I have time. And that's what a bachelor should do, is watch TV, drink beer, watch sporting events, drink beer, enjoy your life, play some video games, and read books. That's our lives. But if you told a woman that, she'd be like, oh, that sounds boring. Reading books? Like, what kind of books do you read? I have a whole thing of those. I don't know how they got here in my house. They're them I think they were my mother's old books that I brought down from the attic and stuff. And she was quite a avid reader of romance novels. And then I stacked those up the other day, and I took them out, and I was going to give them to my ex-wife. I was going to send them over there with my son, and one of these days, and so she can have romance novels to read. Women into romance. But that's how women communicate. They from Mary Wollstonecraft's Mary, the first feminist, to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugs. They do a different kind of intellectualism. It's a storytime fantasy fiction intellectualism where everything works out perfectly in their brain in fantasy fiction land. But that's Disney Pixar shit. That's the myths of that men used to make up, but we don't do that thing anymore. We don't do the myths about our heroes and insert fantasy fiction heroes in where we can't measure up to them, so we have to have a god. Do you see how that works? You have to have a god because you can never measure up to that fantasy fiction hero that women create for us. And some men will say we have to go back to having heroes like that. What's a great hero, like was the I don't know, Superman or Batman, and he comes to save the day and everything like that. Back to the Brothers Grimm, to the prince on the white horse and stuff. Them are heroes. Them are romantic heroes from the Romantic age, from Romanism. That's romanticism. I was supposed to do a video on romanticism, but I just haven't read them chapters yet. I'm sorry, I'm being lazy. Uh, but yeah, so I had a girlfriend tell me I was living in the past by reading ancient history. Yeah, ancient history, it tells us a lot about. We have to read history. We have to do history so we can learn about the mistakes in society that people made back then, so we can have a better society. And history is important. It gives us if we don't have a Civil War history and stuff, how can we know we made a mistake with the slavery thing? Stuff. History is important, and learning the details and intricate details of the Romans and Achilles and those things, and all those stories are important. So we have a basis, but to take the men and make them heroes, that's where I'll complain about that. I don't want to be Achilles. I don't want to be. I can't be. I can't be that Superman, because I fail. I make myself the slave. I become a slave to that, trying to be that person. So there's contradictions in Zarathustra there. Zarathustra was the Superman. He was the hero. I don't know if he was the anti-hero or the hero. I think Soothsayer was the anti-hero in that. But yeah, I can't measure up. I can't, maybe, because I'll end up fighting with another Superman, and another hero comes along and they have to battle, and then it's white knighting, and then so I don't know if Nietzsche actually seen that, and it's playing out in MGTOW now, and we have to better explain it. But I don't know. So I'm just rambling on now. And I told you, Dougie's out there barking. I want to get him in, get him fed, get him lay down in his little blanket where he'll make a mess and do his Dougie things. So like always, guys, thanks for coming around. Do your part, whatever your part is, and make down, and don't apologize to no one for that. No matter what people say, your part is your part. And my part is my part, and I have to be Joe, and you got to be you, and Steve's got to be him, and Orange part is you got to be Victor. Victor's got to be Victor, or else this thing doesn't work, because that's what it relies on, every guy doing his part, and it's important, and it makes the group. And I wish this group would get along better. MGTOW can get along better, and we can see beyond the blue pill world, and why men start fighting, and why men do those things and everything. But we'll work our way through that. And I'm going to go and look tonight on my writings from the past that I have in docs, and see if I have enough material to make a 120 little page book on MGTOW, MGTOW philosophy. What is the MGTOW philosophy and everything? I'll self-publish that and see if someone will print it for me. And with that, like always, thanks for coming around. And most of all, guys, you know it. Thanks a lot for being MGTOW. MGTOW. You guys have a great day. Thanks a lot, guys.